Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome once again to Satsang, the personal communion with truth, to discover your own truth. That is why you are here. All I can do is point you towards it. Only you can walk it, walk the path. Only you can make the discovery. The teacher can point the direction. You can also consistently point out the potholes and the detours and the cul-de-sacs you can get stuck in, and do my best to show you how to avoid those. But many you can't, because if you simply follow the path that has been laid out by somebody else, it's not your path. Right? You're going to have to walk it, which means you're going to end up in some cul-de-sacs that appear to be the road to heaven. You're going to fall down into some ditches, because this is how we learn what a ditch is and what it feels like to be in one, which is the wisdom that says, oh, how do I foresee those ditches in advance and not need to yet once again fall into it to realize I have. I entitled this show Life, the Flow of Opposites show. It's from my radio. The flow of opposites. Really the harmonious flow of opposites. Because that's all life is. In modern spirituality, and even more so in self-help, metaphysics, law of attraction, and all that sort of thing, there's this insane idea that somehow we can live in a state of perpetual bliss, that we can always get what we want, that everything just flows to us from the genie of the universe, with no regard whatsoever with the inevitable necessity of the flow between opposites. There would be no light without dark. There'd be no masculine without feminine. There'd be no death without birth, or birth without death. Yet this is what we seek, the impossible. And in that seeking of this rarefied state that cannot possibly exist, we stake our claim and find ourselves feeling completely at a loss, suffering needlessly, because we don't accept life as it is. We want to try to force it to be as we want it to be. This is the insanity of humanity. And it is insane. You cannot make the impermanent permanent. Can't do it. Nobody can. Buddha couldn't. You cannot stop the flow of events. But the fact is, if you were able to stop the flow of events, life would end, because it is nothing but a flow. Your body, your life, every experience you have, every relationship you have is a constant flow of constantly modulating energy of all sorts of different types. A relationship is never the same one day to the next, one moment to the next. It's always dancing. Right? There's always the tension and release in music. Otherwise, it isn't music. You always have to have the tension in any kind of dramatic art, movie, literature, a play. Something that has to come to a climax and have that final resolution. And the bigger that climatic moment is, the more satisfying the resolution is. We want to run from the dark and live constantly in the light chasing, you might say. But we find the discontent there. We're simply trying to avoid that which is unseemly to us. Why don't we stop for a moment and ask a very simple question? Why is it that I want that? Why is it not perfectly okay just the way it is? What if the universe, God, the creator, didn't make a mistake, and this is exactly what is supposed to be happening? Wouldn't it make you question your disagreement with it? Rather than disagreeing with what's going on, wouldn't you be more interested in why you'd be disagreeing with what is and was supposed to be? What is it in me that thinks I could do a better job? Why this constant self-referencing of what's good for me, what's good for me, what's good for me? With very little thought about the universal implications of that. That's selfishness, that's greed, that's the kind of narcissistic self-indulgence that is quite literally destroying the planet. Literally. I want more, I want more, I want more, I want more. The only thing that happens in nature that has perpetual growth is cancer. And it destroys its host. And yet, this idea of some kind of a perpetual utopia is embodied in our nationalism. It's embodied in our economics. Capitalism is based on the idea of continuous growth, never ending. Right? The health of economy is always assessed not by the quality of life of everyone in it, but by the growth of it. It's bigger now than it was before. Well, how big can something get before it consumes everything in sight and dies? This is a magnification at the level of the whole world of what we simply do individually constantly. We fight with what is. We want the expansion, but not the contraction. We want to breathe in, but we don't want to breathe out. We want the heart to contract, but we never want it to expand, right? We never want it to contract. But isn't it the contraction of the heart that feeds the body? It's not the expansion. It's exactly the opposite. When the heart contracts, the body is nourished. When your life contracts, your soul is nourished. This is a fact. We must root out of ourselves, out of our psyche, out of our mentality, both individually and culturally, this idea of things should be different than they are. As long as I'm engaging with that, I will suffer. Mildly, just a constant discontent, which leads to a level of stress, which of course affects everything. And sometimes intensely, panic, severe suffering. Right? I don't want my life to be like this. It's got to be something else. We're tormented by our minds. It's that simple. Life is not at war with you. How could the universe possibly be at war with itself? How can life want to harm itself? But our egoic minds imagine us as being something other than that. There's life, and then there's me. There's this universe, and then there's me. As if you could possibly be separated. As if you could possibly be two. To totally accept life as it is to completely harmonize with all of it. The ups, the downs, the ins, the outs, the beautiful, the ugly, the wondrous, the horrid. And with no clinging to any particular one of those positions, without holding on to anything, you become free. There's the only place where freedom will be found. Freedom is not having things as you want. It's recognizing that the wanting of things to be different than they are is a moral and a psychological insanity, and it kills everything it touches. And that is the suffering one feels. The only suffering you feel is from your unwillingness to let yourself conform to the truth of life, the truth of all things, this flow of opposites. And when our lives get put into a particular set of conditions that seem like you simply can't take it anymore, right? What life is doing is crushing the ego. The ego can't take it anymore because the ego doesn't want to let go. I want things to be the way I want them, God damn it, right? And sometimes it can get so tenacious and hold on so tight that life just has to squeeze it until it pops, until it breaks. And life's more than willing to do that. The truth of you is willing to inflict all sorts of things on you in order to get you to let go of that which is actually killing you. The circumstances are not killing you. It's holding to what you want to be instead of surrendering to what is. That is suffering in a nutshell. This is the spiritual path. It is a path of letting go. It is a path of surrender. It's the deeper meaning of surrender. This flow of opposites to which we simply surrender because it's what is. It is the truth. And the truth holds all the cards. Always will. It will not conform itself to my will. It simply won't. So I either conform myself, my thoughts, my feelings, my ideas, my aspirations to truths, or I will suffer because it won't bend. It can't. It's the nature of truth. It is changeless. So on that note, welcome everyone once again to Satsang. As always, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm going to say hi to everybody. Hi, Roberto in Madrid. Roberto, I'm exhausted. This is too much. I think I saw that before I started my my opening discourse, and I addressed it for you. That is the issue. That is the whole of it right there. It's just what we're struggling with is our fear of letting go. That's all it is. And it's in the mind, and only you can do it. Right? This is the spiritual quest. I call it a dark night of the soul. We're having to let go of things that we think are sustaining us. We think they're important to us. You know, in the story of Moses and the burning bush, which is a mythological story, there never was a person named Moses. There was no burning bush. Right? In fact, the mountain upon which it happened, Mount Horeb, the meaning of the word Horeb is desolation. It's referring to this place inside when we're just completely desolate. Right? Life is just lost. You know, from the peak of Egyptian royalty to a shepherd hanging out with a bunch of sheep all day in the middle of nowhere on a rocky plain. From a prince to a peasant. Desolation. Life, as it had been known, was being desolate. Now, this is a story. This is a mythological metaphor for you and your life. Right? And when he finally turns to look directly into the burning heart, because the word burning also means mental torment. Right? So the bush was his own heart that was burning with his own torment over his desolation. And after this burning announced itself as God, take off your shoes, you're standing on holy ground. A little later in the conversation, God told him to throw down his staff. Now, this is a beautiful metaphor because, you know, a shepherd's staff was their main tool. They relied on it for everything. It was very long, right? So they could search for holes where they were walking. There might be hidden holes in the grass, you know, to keep animals from breaking a leg or something, or themselves from breaking a leg for that matter. The hook was basically to protect, right? It was his whole life. He leaned on this, right? And then God says, this voice from the middle of our pain says, throw down the staff. Now, metaphorically, what does that mean? Throw down what you're relying on. Throw down your ideas. Throw down your aspirations. Throw down all the stuff that you thought was going to make a difference for you. And when he does, it turns into a snake. Can you follow the power of that metaphor? What we had been leaning on, thinking this was it, this was our great protection, was in fact a snake biting us, poisoning us. And he was terrified. He ran from it. And of course, we should. We should run from that which is totally destructive. But then the beautiful thing, God said, go back and pick it up. Right? But after it had been transformed, it was seen for what it was. Right? When he picked it back up, it became a staff again. This wasn't a magic show. It was a mythological representation. But when you let go of your life, you gain it. This is the death and resurrection theme, once again. Okay? Throw down your staff. Throw down what you have been relying on. That which you think is going to keep you safe. That which you think is your coat. You know, the coat that's going to protect you from the storm. It's a snake. It's poisoning you. It is biting you. I'll leave it at that. I love that story. That's one of the most rich stories in the whole Bible. Sorry for my noise. I have ice in my one of my morning beverages. People have asked about the strange things I drink. This is lemon juice, apple cider vinegar. Sometimes I have tea in it, but today it's just water. And then there's powder with spirulina, chlorella, mushrooms, all sorts of different cool things. So those of you who are health nuts, it's a great one. Poppy, I love you, G. I love you too. Is this going to be live? Yes. My whole life is live. If I'm going to do a pre-recorded show, I let people know in advance, but I don't think I've done one in a year. Nothing I've had to do has actually fallen on a Sunday. So I think I've only missed one in the last year. Yeah, so Robbie in Romania, good to see you, sir. Ava, why were you blocked? Oh, Ava, yeah, I was blocked. Thanks for unblocking me. Yeah, unfortunately, it's because all the nasty things she says. So I just couldn't take it anymore. It was just hurting too much. Actually, because right around her, somebody was posting a link to a porn site, basically. And I blocked them, right? So their comments wouldn't be there. And somehow, there were a bunch of them. Somehow I ended up blocking her as well. But we got her unblocked, so sorry. So sorry that happened to you. Hello, David and Elaine. Never too much to tell you. Thank you, G, for everything and for unblocking you. You're so welcome. Ah, very good. Yay, yay. Penny, hi, Sifu. Hi, Penny. Let's see. Suzanne, hi, GP. How can I practice to love everyone equally? What a beautiful question. The kind of question I wish everybody was asking themselves. How can I come to truly love? Well, I think we have a hint of it in Christ saying, love one another as I have loved you, which is a total surrender to what is, a total surrender to the truth, which he called the Father or the kingdom of heaven, and love thy neighbor as thyself. The ego can never really love everyone. There will always be divisions. There will always be separation. There will always be saying, no, no to this, right? There will always be something that's just outside the boundaries of what I can possibly love. And everything on the other side of what you can love is going to be hate, fear, and indifference, right? Inevitably so. This chair is really squeaky today, isn't it? Sorry about that. I'm actually going to sell it. Have to sell everything. So I've been negligent about putting some WD-40 on it or the like. Anyway, how can we actually come to this place of genuine love, right? Well, what I found is that the more I know who I am, the more I recognize who everybody is. The more I understand that all of my suffering, all of the mistakes I've made, all the blunders I've done, all the ways I've been hurt, all that I have hurt, have all issued forth from my identification with my conditioning, with mistaking the training my nervous system put itself through in order to survive in an environment that wasn't friendly to me being who I am. And I identified with that sense of identity. That's what caused all the suffering. That's caused every bad thing I ever did came from there. This is the truth for everyone. Every bad thing is coming from that conditioning. This is why Christ could say, forgive them. The word forgive means to find them innocent, find them not guilty, because they didn't know what they were doing. It was the conditioning that was acting. And in our ignorance, that is our lack of consciousness, mistaking conditioning for ourselves, we become it, we act it out, we live it. And that conditioning is the egoic mind, and it will always have boundaries. There will always be those that are in the circle and those that are out. Right? And it doesn't matter what it is. If it's nationalistic pride, then I'm better than all the other countries in the world. If it's racial pride, then I'm better than everybody. Well, race isn't even real, but I'm better than all the other races. Religious beliefs, I'm going to heaven, you're going to hell. It's inevitable. You can't help it, because this is what the egoic mind does. And the God of the Old Testament is the egoic mind. Angry, bitter, tribal, exclusive. These people are chosen, everybody else, tough luck. That's the nature of that kind of religion and belief systems. So practicing love is first self-inquiry, right? Are you loving you? Are you coming to know you? And I don't mean trying to love yourself by saying, okay, I'm going to love this horrible habit I have, but coming to understand where these habits came from, the parts of you that aren't lovable. Why? Why are they not lovable? It's me. Am I embarrassed of this aspect of myself? And is this really an aspect of me, my natural inherent being, or is this my conditioning? Is this a habit, a pattern of behavior and thought that I have just been going along with and never scrutinized, never questioned? Is this really me? This is a deep, deep inquiry to find out who you are. The process of doing that, you recognize that everything bad, horrible that anybody does is done because of identification with the conditioning. They are ignorant of it. They are operating completely on autopilot, the way they were programmed, which means essentially they're innocent. Nobody, once they see something is wrong, is evil, is horrible, is painful, is unloving, when they really see it, the recognition itself ends the behavior. Because you can't knowingly do something. This kind of unloving uh, disposition and actions that can magnify into wars, right? They have to operate in the dark. There has to be this I'm better idea. If that's not there, you can't help but love everyone because we're all the same. Right? You don't see color, you don't see race, you don't see nationality, you don't see belief systems. You simply don't see them because they have nothing to do with the essence of you, with the soul. Knowing that, you will very naturally find yourself wisely loving everyone. It doesn't mean you have to accept the behaviors, but you can discern the difference between a behavior that is coming from conditioning and a behavior that is coming from one's true self. The behavior that comes from one's true self is always loving because your nature is love. This is the great discovery. I am love. Therefore, I'm not somebody who has to learn how to love. I simply have to discover my own nature, which will uproot and dissolve anything unlike itself, and I will literally be love incarnate. As a practice, as a way of approaching it, self-inquiry is one part, but another is simply meditating on love. Allowing yourself to bring to the surface within yourself in a meditative environment everything you don't love. Everyone you just can't feel a good feeling about it. And just bring them up and be with them. Be with that. Right? Use that as the focus of the meditation. And yes, you can include politicians and and greedy executives and all of that. You can include all of those and go, well, where and really come to terms with your own rejection of them, right? And again, this isn't to accept their behaviors as right. It is immoral, evil, and irresponsible and stupid, right? To be draining the earth of its resources for the value of a stock price. It's insanity, given, right? Now, where does this insane behavior come? Through the delusion of that particular conditioning. And if you can see through that, and recognize the deformity of the state of mind, and at the same time impute an innocence to the one who has been mesmerized into believing it, you are now loving everyone equally. You can't love the unlovable, and greed is unlovable, right? Because it's contrary to life. It's anti-life. And it's not pro-choice either. It's anti-choice as well. So you don't have to love that, but to clearly see that it also is a product of conditioning, just like you. You can see right through it to the innocent original heart that's there. And that seeing is your capacity to love equally and wisely. And without it ever saying a word, that love reaches out into the general field of human consciousness and leavens the entire thing. Does that answer it for you, Suzanne? What a beautiful question. What a heartfelt question. Thank you for that. Ravi, do thoughts by themselves have no power, or unless one puts attention or reacts to them and linking them with feelings? And so, can they be easily dropped out if it's of no use or interest? Well, yes. Does a thought have no power? Does a thought have any power in and of itself? Can it make you do something? Can it make you believe something? Right? It's a thought, right? Nothing more. Like, a voice speaking on the radio, right? It has to hook up with something here, something that conforms to your beliefs, so it gets your attention, and then your endorsement. Then you regard it as being true, and now you start acting it out and living it, and so you give this thought life, because your life, it's not. It is just a momentary fluctuation, a little like a wave in the ocean. It has no substance in and of itself. So yes, when you give it attention, you are empowering it. No intention, it has to fade because it has no power of its own. It can't self-sustain. Now, can they be easily dropped? Not so easily, no, because they're habits. The patterns of thought that consistently appear and our reaction to them and belief in them is a programmed pattern that continues. So it isn't just the thought appearing, your reaction to the thought is also part of the program. And so it happens very quickly. And before you know it, you're halfway down the road and you don't even know how you got there. Okay? So I won't say it's easy, but it is the only way. And so we have to lose interest in them. How do you lose interest in them? There's only one way. You have to see that they're not true. And how can you see how can you determine if something is not true or not? Well, you have to know what is true. I mean, it's so simple, right? I mean, if I'm going to be able to discern between this and this, which is truth, or at least which is closer to the truth, I've got to know what the truth is. If I don't, I'm out of luck. What am I going to do? How do I tell? Then it'll be based on my belief, my preferences, my ego, right? You know, whatever my culture happens to say is, and not based on anything that's true. So they can be dropped. But once there is some consciousness that begins to even question a particular thought or pattern of thought, awakening has already happened. Prior to that, it's just you don't question it. And the capacity to question it is an unfoldment from within that you don't bring about. It's pure grace. Right? You know, nobody chose to be here today. It was pure grace. Right? It's a choiceless choice, you might say. Your exposure to and subsequent embracing of this kind of teaching was an unfoldment. Something very naturally and spontaneously arose in you. Nobody chooses anything, really. I don't want to get into the discussion of free will and all that right now. But once that has awakened, you have awakened your inner wisdom eye, that inner capacity for discrimination, for determining between looking at two things and saying, this is true, this is not, or this is more true, right? Also more loving, which are synonymous as far as I'm concerned. So we have to realize that our interest in it is part of the program. And so you can't just take your interest and I'm not going to be interested in that anymore if you are, right? If there's something on TV and you keep watching it, something is grabbing your interest about it, right? Because if there's absolutely no interest, you just turn it off, turn the channel, or walk out of the room if you can. Right? You immediately just kind of reject that which you are not interested in. Right. And so I say it's not easy simply because there's a whole mechanism of conditioning that is at play here. It is not just your, oh, it's not true anymore. Good, that's it. Sometimes that's enough, right? But usually it's iterative. It comes up again. The interest in it comes up again. Oh no, I'm really not interested in that. But you can't beat yourself up there. You can say, oh, I'm not spiritual. It's still coming back. You don't know how long it's going to come back. Every time it comes back, you do exactly the same thing. Okay, there's the habit of both the thought pattern and my interest in it. I'm not really interested in it. It's not true. And so I'm just going to kind of let go of it. And my attention will go somewhere else. And attention will go back again, right? It's okay. Just keep bringing it back. Sometimes that can happen very quickly. Sometimes it can take its time, but it becomes easy the moment you realize that it is a conditioned pattern. It can take some time for it to be completely diluted and the system divest itself of it. But that's not important, right? The moment you just accept that this is the way it is and you're just going to take your stand as your true self, at that moment, it becomes easy. Even if the thing is still happening, and it's still troublesome. It's still troublesome. So, thank you, Robbie. Sip of my beverage. This is so good. Yeah. Apple cider vinegar and lemon together. Whoa. Karen. Hello. My husband cheated on me, so I have trust issues. He started working in a new company, so I checked the homepage to see if I can picture of his female co-workers to see if there was a woman in the category of loot scheme. Well, there wasn't really, so I was kind of relieved. But what I didn't know was at the same time they hired him, they also hired a woman that was just his type of girl. When he started something with her, I'm asking myself now if I've attracted that situation, it's my jealousy, and even that woman into this company is my life also. You know, that term, I attracted this, you know, is a law of attraction term. And it is one of the most cruel and ridiculous ideas that has ever been thrust upon us. You know, it's right up there with original sin, right? The only thing it serves is to make you afraid of your own thoughts, and to make us feel guilty about everything that happened in our lives, right? Your husband cheating on you is his weakness. He did it before, and he's doing it again. He's not trustworthy, right? It's not that you have trust issues in general, but the man you're with is not trustworthy. You cannot rely on him, right? You know, so in a very real sense, there is no marriage. There's a legal binding, but there's no marriage of the spirits, because a real man wouldn't do it. He would either meet his commitment, or he would confess that he doesn't have those feelings anymore, and want to make an adjustment. That would be what an actual man would do. It is an act of cowardice, of real cowardice, to cheat, and it's simply the ego. The ego wants to be flattered, right? The ego wants to be told how wonderful it is. And there's, both sides of the fact. Did I not treat him well enough? Did I not honor him well enough? That conversation could go on forever. It's absolutely useless, right? But if he's capable of that, and he clearly is, then you cannot trust him, right? And so now it becomes a matter of what is best for you. Forget him. Who cares, right? I know this is harsh for me to say. You marry somebody, you think this is it forever. Trust, I feel safe. This is my home. I don't have to, I can feel safe here. This is reliable and stable. And there's nothing that destroys that more than infidelity. Right? It's one thing to fall out of love and say, I just don't feel this way anymore, and I can't help it, because that happens. And it's natural, and nobody's at fault. There's no guilty party here. Okay? But somebody who is simply trying to satisfy their egoic needs, to feel as if, they are someone. There's something deep inside him that is not being met. And no woman is going to meet that. Right? It has nothing to do with even the woman. It's just this constant feedback that's needed. So what is it in him that needs that, right? But that's not up for you to deal with. That's not your problem. That's not your terrain. What is best for you? Recognize that you have the need. You have put your trust that this would be stable and reliable, and that you wouldn't have to worry about it. Right? And now you do, which means it is no longer what you had wanted. You don't want this. Right? Now, only one of two things can happen. Either he genuinely changes and genuinely, loves you above all else, to the exclusion of all else, or you move on. I really do hate to put it in such harsh terms, but I've seen enough of these relationships that nothing budges until somebody takes a stand. Right? It's unacceptable, and that's painful because you don't want to let go of what you had. But what you had isn't there anymore. Not really. Right? You don't want to let go of what you had hoped for, and you don't have to, but it just may not be there. And what I want for all women, in fact, I'm most likely going to be doing a workshop solely for women, no men allowed. Also one for men with no women allowed. What I want for all women is for you to understand the incredible value that is woman, the mysterious miracle that is woman. And until he understands that, until he gets the real value of women, he's not really a man. He's still a boy. He's a child. He becomes just an object of display, or an object for satisfying his pleasure. There's no knowledge of the underlying reality that manifests itself as a human woman. And I teach men how to do that, and I teach women how to be that. Right? Women are the pinnacle. They were always regarded as the pinnacle. The first goddesses that were worshipped were goddesses. Just the sheer reality that it is the female that gives around, so that men have become dominant in it, and they think it's all about them. Even in the Abrahamic religions, we have the most obscene distortion there possibly is. The man as creator, Yahweh, a male creating, right? Without a female, right? It is a horrifically crass distortion. It's exactly the opposite of nature, which is the end result of that. You can see the chaos that it's done in the world, all because there's just not an understanding of the true meaning of women. The feminine principle is the creator of everything. In the Hindu tradition, the feminine principle is like a mysterious mist, right? that creates even the gods. This is you. This is your real nature. This is what is being embodied in the form of Karen. And it behooves us all to come to see that. The women have to claim that for themselves and refuse to accept anything less, no matter what it costs. And men must come to value that and step into their true role as the protectors of life. Not the protectors of their storehouse, of their wealth, of their family, protectors of life. I hope that wasn't too harsh, right? It just breaks my heart when I hear things like this. The world is currently being run by boys in men's bodies. And there's nothing more dangerous on this entire planet than a boy in a man's body. A boy who thinks he's a man. They are the ones who start and all the wars and train boys to fight in them, as if that's manhood. What's very dear to my heart. I hope that's helpful, Karen. If it's not, please tell me. I will try to do some more with this. But no, my dear, you are not attracting it. Please put that idea out of your mind forever. It's metaphysical nonsense. It's a complete misinterpretation of how things really are, and has done absolutely no one any good except made people terrified of their own thoughts. It's just as bad as saying God is judging every thought you have, right? He knows every thought and he's judging it. If the wrong thought's there, you're going to hell. What's the difference? A hell later, a hell now. What's the difference? There isn't any. This is original sin in the back door. No, it is not that at all. But we do have to come to terms with our conditioned patterns and those thought forms and beliefs that do not serve us and are not true. That's one of them. Hopefully that touches you and frees you up from that ridiculous idea. Ursula, Madeira, hi there, Ursula. Sabago, hi, Master. Long time no see. Looking sharp as always. Well, thank you. This is my, that's right. I'm going to start my own line of clothing, Guruji. Namaste. Great to be here. Sending love to all from Steph. Wonderful to have you here, Steph. Let's organize your visit to Europe. Well, it's happening. It is going to happen. I've got someone on the lookout right now for an apartment that I can rent and kind of wander from place to place. So I would love to do events all over Europe, gatherings. It doesn't have to be big, small. I do have to be able to pay for it, so I won't be able to just show up free. I'll still be doing satsangs free, just be doing them from someplace else. Probably a different time too, because it's like where I'm going is Frankfurt, and it's 9 hours ahead of me here. So it's like 9 o'clock at night there. So I will be moving satsang a bit earlier. Let's see. Annette, my rock star. Hello, hello. Are there certain love meditations to open the heart chakra to make you feel more loved and to raise the ability to radiate love in return? Thank you. Well, start with this. And this is a good one. I think I might make one. Thank you. To open the heart. Well, really, all the meditations that I do, all the meditations that appear to be just non-dual meditation, formless meditations, are an opening of the heart. Because what does it mean for a heart to become open? What it means is that the heart gently but consistently surrenders to what is. It's dropping its argument with the way things are. That's the closedness. If it's closed, it's got something against what's happening, right? It has a boundary, right? And we can literally feel that in our chests. I work with people all the time, and they feel this constriction in their chest, which is simply, and if you really feel into it closely, you'll find it's a pressure on the chest, but in fact, it's a pressure inside trying to get out, and something is resisting it. The very fact that you want to do this is an indication that this love you are seeking is already awake in you, and it doesn't have to be enhanced. It needs to be liberated. It needs the freedom to express itself. Well, how does it get the freedom to express itself? Well, it has to become safe for it to express itself, right? And again, it comes back to self-inquiry, for you yourself to create an internal environment that is safe enough for whatever is in you to come out. The good, the bad, and the indifferent. All the stuff that you don't want, the ugly stuff that we're afraid, all the stuff that's dark, that needs to come up too. But that's not all that's there. Because what is blocking, trying to hold in the stuff that we believe to be negative, which in fact isn't, is also holding in the light. It is also holding in your godly nature, your goddess nature. It's holding it back. And that desire to express it is what you're feeling. So when you simply are being present with yourself, you withdraw your attention from thoughts, from your emotions and your sensations. You drop all of your arguments with it. Every thought that says something should be different, you just say, I don't need you right now, and just put it to the side. A recognition that this is happening, right? It can even be not welcome. I wish it wasn't happening, but it is. It's super, okay, this is happening. So I'm going to allow it to happen. Right? This is the yoga of allowing. It's one of the things that I teach. It's part of the Inner Reconciliation series. I just allow it as a whole audio series in and of itself. That just talks, and that's really all it's doing, is opening you up to experience unconditional love. And as that opening takes place, you very naturally find it going everywhere. You can't help it. You can't hold it back. That's love. The nature of love is this outward explosion. It's radiant, right? Love never does this. Something has to come to block love from doing that. So your heart is constantly trying to shine. It is shining. It's just right now, it's shining and it's in a little cave. Right? So we need to just kind of take down the walls of the cave so that light can shine more. And so it becomes, I am love. It's not something I do. It's not an action. It's not, I am love. So it's perfectly natural for me to be drawn towards being more loving, expressing more love, right? I need to feel more loved as well. The back and forth. What is it that's driving that? Your intuitive knowing that love is your nature, that this is the way life is supposed to be. we intuitively know this. Well, how do we know this? Because you are love. That is what you are. It is not an attribute of you. It is your very nature. And recognizing that is a very deep self-realization. And as such, it becomes far simpler to simply say no to any thought that is unloving. Now, they may return, right? Because the loving thought has been produced by the defenses in your whole conditioned nervous system to defend yourself against the attacks, right? And as those defenses come down, because you're developing more and more authority, more and more sense of self-worth, more and more love, more and more love is allowed to express itself, you naturally get more sense of self-worth, sense of value. And it just radiates. It can't help it, right? You couldn't stop it if you tried, right? It's like the sun. You can't stop it. Go ahead, try to turn it out. You can't do it. You can turn your back on it. You can hide in a cave, but you can't put it out. That's the nature of love. So maybe I'll record some meditations on that and make them available just on this opening of the heart. I also do a lot of heart opening meditations in my chakra course, chakras, archetypes of consciousness, where I dive into the real nature of the heart, the peacemaker, the place of pure allowing. And Ramana Maharshi, one of the greatest awakened beings of all time, used the term the self and the heart synonymously. He didn't draw a distinction between mind and heart, between knowing and feeling. The heart was the center of being. The heart was awakened. And a lot of non-dual teaching is an awakened mind, but a closed heart, but not an awakened heart. It's got to move south. It's not a full realization until the heart has awakened. That is, the heart is free to love unrestrictedly because it has no fear. So, yeah, And you can also simply drop the assumption that everybody has that I need more love. I need to be more loved. I need to be more loving, right? And although that's not really true, I am love. And I'm just seeking increasingly free ways to express that. Notice it's a very different way to approach life. You are living your life as love, not living your life trying to get love. Completely different energy, isn't it? Because this is your nature. This is the nature of the goddess, the feminine aspect and the feminine way in which love is made manifest. So hopefully that helps you, Annette. Thank you so much. Thank you, my rock star. GB, my friend Georgia in London. Good to see you. Good to have you here. Martin, hello, G and everyone. What happens to the body, mind, and soul when you're in love and when you're just in the opposite mood? Thanks a lot. Well, the neuroscience and chemists and everything say one thing about it, that it's nothing but a bunch of, chemicals being released. And, yeah, chemicals get released, stuff happens. But the essence of the experiencing, the consciousness, has nothing to do with the chemistry. Right? When you are in love, something happens to us. You forget yourself. Everything becomes the beloved. Now, stuff, based on our conditioning, stuff will then attach it. My expectations, my desires, what she should be, what he should be, where it's going to go, how it's going to look. The mind will jump in and try to make all sorts of projections. All of that will kill the romance, by the way. The feeling that is engendered is what it feels like. It is a taste of heaven. It is a taste of what the self always feels. You have for a moment dropped you, and that feeling you're having is the bliss of true existence, which is love itself. This is the mystery of it. And if you're wise, right, and conscious, you can maintain that level of innocent union for a lifetime. Right? But that requires a maturity that most don't have. And you'll notice that when you're in love, everything looks lovable. Nobody bothers you. You don't care what happens. You give the $20 to the homeless guy. It's just, you're free, right? That's the feeling. The mistake is believing that it is simply the other that has engendered this. And the other has only been a catalyst, that sense of connection, which released in you the innate capacity to love unrestrictedly. And it just, it goes everywhere. This is a taste of oneness, right? What do we seek with our beloved? Union, right? Emotional, psychological, spiritual, physical. We seek union, right? We want to get closer and closer and closer, right? Ultimately, we want to merge into one, right? It's the moth and the flame. We want to disappear and become the flame. Right? That is the underlying experience. This is the fervor with which one comes to seek the self. This is the genuine love of God that mystics talk about, that's just completely absorbing. Right? Now, of course, when you don't feel loved or loving, when everything looks horrible, right? Which means nothing is itself, is inherently anything. Nothing has meaning. All the meaning is in you. Right? If you consistently cultivate that love, right, in all of its aspects. Of course, the intensity of falling in love is this wonderful experience. And it's wonderful on so many levels. You can't control it. You don't know when it's going to happen. Sometimes on the surface would be the most unlikely pair, just right? Stuck like glue. it's one of those things. It's completely revolutionary because we don't control it. And that's why marriage was invented. That's why cultures don't like it. That's why the tribe wants to arrange, unions, because love is radical, revolutionary, disruptive. I mean, completely, blows everything. It's contrary to everything, right? Because you can't control it. Right? And you can, though, provide an environment in which it's free to grow, right? And mature and shift and change. All sorts of wonderful things can happen. They rarely do in our culture because it's so messed up. So you can feel, I don't have to tell you what happens to the body, mind, and soul. You've been in love. I assume everybody here has been in love. You probably fell in love the first time at 12 or 13, maybe younger. Right? I remember feeling very strong feelings of love towards a little girl, first grade. And I had no idea, I was just drawn to her, right? And now I recognize, it was love. Right? And all sorts of things are there on all levels. The key is to maintain the understanding of the source of this love to be love itself, and not circumstantial, not conditional, not cultural, right? But it is love itself. What you are feeling is what love feels like, which is your nature. And that's why it's so powerfully attractive, because it is you. It's truth. It's not just a good feeling. It's the truth. And cultivating that, not as just a theoretical idea, but as a lived, felt thing, is the path of spirituality. And as you know, when you're in the opposite mood, what is it? You're grumpy. Everything's horrible. Everything is irritating. Everything is annoying. Just paying attention to the fact that it is simply a shift in perception. The thing itself is not changed in the slightest. Why you always do that? Or, God, that's great that you do that. What's different? Right? Recognizing that, we see how unstable and untrustworthy these emotional shifts are, our mental shifts are. And we begin to root ourselves in a different place. That which is aware of all of these shifts. Which means when the love is intense, it's great, and you can love it. But no, it's going to come. There'll be a valley. For every peak, there will be a valley, and there has to be. This is the flow. This is the flow of opposites. And if that's understood, the valley can be as intensely pleasurable and wonderful as the peak. Sometimes even more so, because they last longer. So hopefully that helps. Milo. Namaste, and everyone. It's strange. I know family doesn't necessarily mean anything more than a friendship, especially not if the relationship with family is quite bad. But somehow I still think I owe my family something. And I even feel guilty when I don't call or talk to them regularly or show up at certain family events. But I really would prefer to spend the time with my friends and not with my family. What is your advice? Follow your heart. I'm not one to say you should just throw out all familial obligations, right? Unless they're destructive. I think I've mentioned this before when I began to see the effect my rather crazy family was having on my children. I became aware of it. Not until then. I was just a part of it, right? Because kind of the deal. And I was used to being rejected, so it was no big deal. But when I saw that stuff being kind of levied on my kids, I said, whoa. And I completely cut myself off from every family event from that point forward. A year later, I was offered a job. I moved 2,000 miles away. Sometimes you have to do that. Right? It was totally destructive, and I had no idea how destructive it was until I saw it reflected in my two sons, who are little, 3, 4 years old, right? So what you really need to do primarily is give yourself the freedom to choose. An obligation is not love, right? Period. And yes, families come with obligations. It's, it's the cultural thing, You live in this country, you got responsibilities to be a good citizen and all that kind of stuff, right? You're in this family, and there's a circuit that gets created in a family. There's a dynamism that gets created. Just the way all the cells kind of work together to form a body, the individuals in a family combine, serving different kinds of functions, and they make their own energy body, a family body, you might say. There's community bodies, body politic, religious bodies. They are, in fact, like an agreement of cells that have a particular function, and that energy then it becomes solidified into this body, into this system, right? And then when somebody doesn't want to participate anymore, it shakes the whole thing up. And one of the ways you keep everybody conforming is through guilt and shame, right? Guilting for even wanting to prefer to be with your friends. Right? But let's just face the facts. You do. This isn't something you made up. It's not something you created. It's not something you're responsible for. It just happened. I don't want to be with them. I want to be with my friends, right? Or I want to be alone. I spend all the holidays alone with my sons. Okay? It's kind of weird, but not nearly as weird as the craziness of my family. Okay? So it's a simple admission of what your truth is. And then also recognizing that within you is the energetic structure of the family. That's how it works. It isn't just, you're just kind of interchangeable. You're playing a part. And if you don't play your part, the entire thing is destabilized. So if you're the only one who's becoming conscious, they're going to be reaching out. They're going to be trying to drag you back in because they just don't want this to change. This is the nature of the egoic mind and egoic systems. And it is an egoic system, right? The needs of the family are more important than the needs of the individual. This is cultural. This is tribal cultural. The tribe is more important than the individual. Not the real tribes, not, the Aboriginal tribes had everything in balance. It was always a balance between the individual and their capabilities and the needs of the tribe. There was a dance that took place, but cultures became more and more and more restrictive and male-oriented and dominant. And so the individual got reduced to an irritating, just an irritating phenomena that had to be squashed. That's the nature. That's what religions do: squash individuality with conformity. And so you can see this playing out here, but you can feel it. You will feel that as feeling guilty, even though you don't want to call. You feel guilty for not even wanting to, and then you might make yourself do it, and you give the appearance, right? You feel horrible. They think everything's okay, right? At some point, you simply have to own up to your own feelings. Right? This is kind of the path everyone has to take, especially men on the path to manhood. You have to own up to your own feelings. You have to admit what is your truth, right? And it may be a very inconvenient truth. It may be a very uncomfortable one. It may be one that you'd rather not have happened, but it did. And so there you are. So now it becomes you yourself being willing to imbibe and embody that truth in the best way that you can, being as loving as you possibly can, right? But not loving to the point where it betrays the truth. And therein lies the middle path that everyone has to walk. I'm more than willing to compromise, right? So I don't hurt somebody, but I cannot compromise my truth. I cannot compromise that. If I do, I compromise me. And now I'm not even showing up for them anyway. This other non-existent, this fake character, this fiction is showing up. And of course, that's the nature of conditioning. In the family system, as a child, you learn how to play your role. You become what the family needs. And it's not you. There'd be no problem if it was you, but no family accepts you. You're supposed to be X, Y, and Z. And the more you're not X, Y, and Z, the more inner conflict there is, the more difficult it is. And eventually you have to recognize and break that pattern. You have to, right? And that may feel really harsh at first. But oftentimes what happens, not always, in my case, never, it didn't happen. But I have seen it in other cases when you are absolutely convicted and you are unyielding, that the family actually adjusts. There's enough consciousness there that people say, wow, that was really brave of you. Yeah, I really respect that. What is it? What's happening for you? That can happen. I don't promise it. That never happened to me. But it can. But obviously, it's up to you to take your stand. This is the nature of manhood. You have to take your stand no matter what the consequences are. As Martin Luther King said, "Here I stand. I can do no other, so help me God." Amen. It's the hero's journey, my friend. And nobody chooses it. Juliana. All right. Time for a drink of my sustenance. I actually do put some flavored amino acids in there as well, just to cut the incredibly bitter taste of lemon juice and apple cider vinegar. Juliana, hello everyone. When I feel sad or bad in any way, I love listening to music. It puts me in a better mood again. Most of the time it works quite well, but in the end of the day, isn't that just another coping mechanism? Can be, yeah, it can be. And there's nothing wrong with it, right? There's nothing wrong to using some kind of a device to help shift your mood, as long as there's some consciousness there. And you don't get dependent upon the device, right? It's an aid, it's a tool, but ultimately it is the necessity is for you to be in a place that is completely untouched by the flow of moods, right? The state of reality is not a mood. The state of genuine peace, love, freedom is not a mood. It's reality, right? And so moods come and go. And yes, if we're in a bad mood, it's like nobody wants to stay there, right? And put something on that puts you in a better mood. I don't find anything wrong with that. I mean, I don't find anything wrong with anything, right? I would say that what you might want to do as a way to develop that, so that you're not dependent always on shifting the mood, right? Because this is really important. At some point, we have to come to see ourselves being transcending the natural ups and downs of our human emotions. Sometimes it's going to be really wonderful and I'm dancing. The next minute it's going to feel really miserable. And if all I ever try to do is to get rid of the miserable state to get a nice, happy, emotionally happy state, what I'm really doing is I'm afraid of that mood, right? And I never want anybody to be afraid of what they're experiencing. That fear of the feeling that you're having, right, is what creates the suffering, not the feeling. So if it becomes no longer about trying to shift from one mood to another, from one feeling to another, from one experience to another, and a willingness to be present no matter what is happening, you get complete freedom from the emotional ups and downs. Then they can happen. You can enjoy the up, you can commiserate with the down, but there's something inside that lives unconditionally, in complete contentment and equanimity, because it isn't fighting with any particular experience of life. The opposites can flow, and they don't affect you at your core. It's not to say they don't affect you, of course, right? I'd much rather be whistling doodah, than singing a dirge, right? But there's times I'm going to have to sing the dirge, right? And so if I just completely embrace that and accept that, there's a contentment behind it, right? So what you might want to do to just put it to the test, if it is just an escape, is don't put on the music and sit with the mood, with that sucky mood for a while. Just be with it, right? And then you'll notice all the feelings that are trying to get rid of it. Say, okay, that's long enough. Let's listen to some music now. And you'll see that you'll get a look into the deeper energy that is rejecting life. And believe me, if you're rejecting the negative, you're also rejecting aspects of the positive. The little that manages to get through is just a foretaste of the vastness of blessing and bliss that is available to you. Right? But it is not available until you are willing to be with both sides. Right? Until it is no longer just, I want to always feel good. Spirituality is not about chasing the bliss. It is about transcending all opposites, at which point no experience contains suffering, pleasant or unpleasant. There's no attachment, there's no aversion. That is freedom. I am free from all of the ups and downs of life. And paradoxically, it means I am free to experience everything in life to the fullest. So try that. Right. Thank you, Juliana. Suzanne. Suzanne, is the only chance to overcome one's fear to know ourselves? Yes. Yes, when you know yourself as you are, there's no more fear. There can't be. Because there's nothing to fear, right? And you'll find that 99% of what you fear is your own being. You're afraid to confront who you really are because we believe it to be horrible. We believe the conditioning that said, you're a horrible, and you got to be kept out of sight. We have to have a false version of you to present to the world. Right? And so this you, the real you, the one that, the natural part of you, it's got to go away. Bury it. And it makes you afraid to do the inquiry to rediscover that. It keeps saying, it's terrible. You're not going to like it. You're going to hate yourself. You really are a horrible person. All of these things it's going to say to keep you from discovering, well, if I am, then so be it. If it's the truth, it's the truth. Okay, I will find that I am a horrible person. I'm willing to take that risk. Now what are you going to do to me? That is the most courageous thing a person can do. Risk the possibility that you may actually be the distorted, horrible monster you fear you are, right? At the potential of discovering the most magnificent, beautiful thing you could possibly imagine. It's worth it. Marty, last week I had an amazing encounter with a beautiful woman here in Vancouver, Washington, that had a spontaneous experiential awakening. She is now a non-duality teacher and plays a Russian tongue drum. Sound familiar, GP? Yes, it does. I felt that I had received the best gift ever being in her presence. A heartfelt thank you, GP, for sharing the teachings and pointers that helped me see her. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Wow. How lovely. Duality teacher plays the tongue drum. Carl Lucy. Hi, GP. Is consciousness really evolving? Why do so-called evolved beings still need to produce so much crap to learn and evolve? Thank you. The timeless does not evolve. Truth doesn't evolve, does it? I mean, just look at it reasonably. Right? That which is doesn't become something else, right? But here is where the mystery kicks in. Because while truth itself, consciousness, the true nature of being, is absolutely changeless. It doesn't need to evolve. It's infinite. There's no place for it to go, and there's no limits on it. Nonetheless, that which gives expression to it is constantly evolving, changing, moving, fluctuating, ups and downs, ins and outs, heart pumps, breath in, breath out, constantly. The duality, what we see is the world, the duality of the world, is the non-dual reality knowing itself. And how else can you know itself other than form? So the formless gives rise to form. The form never sits still, like your body, you know? A million cells die, a million are reborn every second. Every second. So being doesn't evolve, but the expression of being does. It's kind of like how a great piece of music follows a dramatic or literature, movies too. They follow a dramatic arc, right? Don't they? There's a build-up to a point of climax, right? Right, and then it kind of fades back down again. Right? Our life is just a series of those, right? And every one is different than the prior, right? We wouldn't want the same thing over and over again. Who wants to see the same movie twice unless it's really, really good, right? But even then, how many times can you see it, right? Okay, it was really good. It's not going to be good the fourth time, so I'm not going to see it the fourth time. So everything, right? And why do evolved beings still need to produce so much crap to learn and evolve? This is kind of one of the kind of immature ideas about spirituality. The soul evolves; it has to learn things, right? From who? Right? This is the idea that you aren't the whole, you aren't the self, you are a self, right? That is somehow evolving into the self, which I suppose is going to climax at some point, and now I'm going to be God, right? Or whatever that is. This is not reality. Reality is you are the self. The self is unknowable in and of itself because it is infinite. It has the moment an attribute appears, it's a creation. And like music is never confined to a song or a group of songs or a genre. Right? Music remains infinite and indescribable. It is the potential for every possible combination of sound to come together in. And every possible one of those we recognize as music. It's got a distinct character about it. If there were no songs, we couldn't recognize that character. And yet, music didn't get into the song and get lost. Music doesn't have to evolve. The manifestation of it evolves constantly. You know, we don't listen to things that that the Greeks played, right? Except as is an interesting thing of history, and then you hear it and go, wow, it's really nice. And then I take it and maybe that instrument or something, and I use it for something I do. So there's this constant interplay going on, right? And we still listen to things from 300 years ago, but I listen to Beethoven. I also listen to Eddie Van Halen, right? It's all music, right? So it's when we identify with the evolving form that we get stuck. We think I'm evolving, I need to grow, and then all the crap happens in my life, right? The adversity happens, and that forces me to grow, and I think I'm evolving. Once you realize that the evolving is the manifestation and not the self, the all the crap goes away. There's no need. You see that the manifestation and the environment in which it occurs are one. And so there's this constant interplay between what appears to be outside and what appears to be inside. But in fact, they are both inside the self, which is holding the entire picture. Not just me as an individual in this body, but it is holding this body, all bodies, the entire universe. Right? And what you call you or your life is that infinite self focusing itself to one point of perception so that it can see itself from that point. So it sees itself, which is everybody, from this point of view. And so I know myself as Carl. You know yourself as GP, your friends, everybody in your life, right? Are you? Once you realize that infinite consciousness that does not evolve, but gives rise to all evolution, right? All appearances, the matter is closed. The mystery is solved, and yet remains a mystery. And then there is no need to evolve for the self. And the manifestation of the self is a constant evolution, but the being is not evolving. The expression of the being is evolving. Music doesn't evolve. The manifestation of it does. And is a direct reflection of the environment, which is also part of the creation, because you can't separate the two. Oh, I could go off on that for a while, but I'll try to get some more questions. Facebook user. Namaste and hello. I don't like talking in front of other people because I'm very shy when it comes to having all attention on me. I feel quite uncomfortable in these situations. What caused that behavior and my feelings about it and how to overcome it? Thank you. Lovely. Many people, path didn't fit in. Wow. Yes, you're right. Intuitive thoughts. Wow. Okay. It's a whole bunch of stuff down there. Okay, hold on. I don't like to... Shyness. The number one fear of human beings is public speaking. We fear humiliation more than we fear our physical death. Right? We're afraid to be seen, right? Because you feel you have something to hide and you don't have anything to say. It's a deep energetic pattern. And what I usually do with something like that, if I'm working with somebody individually, is I will start primarily using EFT, right? The understanding of its origin, which simply means, here's what happened. Here's what happened. You're a kid, you expressed yourself, you got in trouble. Simple as that. Expressing yourself quite naturally, right? Just, it is who you are. You couldn't help but expressing it like that. And so, but expressing who you are meets with the rejection of your tribe, right? Of your family, of your parents. This is not allowed. And your nervous system, being very, very clever, figures out, well, what's the best form I can take and adapt to in order to stay safe in this environment. Stay hidden. In your case, stay hidden. Don't speak. Don't offer up anything. Because if you do, you will get hurt. So say little. It's a very powerful strategy. It worked when you were a kid. You're here now as an adult. So it obviously worked, right? But what worked then as an adaptive response to an unsafe environment doesn't work now. So that when you go to express yourself, that very same mechanism, which has not been yet released from the system, assumes the same thing is going to happen. And so what it does, it shuts you down. It doesn't let you speak. You feel shy. You feel reserved. You want to move into the background. That's what happened, right? Now, just knowing that's what happened, it opens a door. Right? It doesn't uproot the energetic pattern that keeps asserting itself, from the system, that simply. But it makes you understand, first off, you're not responsible for it. You're not defective. It's not something that's wrong with you. You're not broken in any way. You just had to adapt to an environment that was not loving for you. It was not accepting of you. And you had no choice, right? You had to adapt to what the environment did, or you wouldn't have survived. Right? So none of this is your fault. Matter of fact, it all happened before you even aware it was happening. You become aware now because inside you want to express yourself and you can't, right? If you didn't want to express yourself at all and this state was completely dominant, you wouldn't be even asking me the question. You just accept it and just stay in the background. But because there's something inside of you that says, I do want to express myself, which is, of course, our nature. Remember, your nature is to express yourself. And so it's an existential crisis when you can't, right? It's like, I express who I am, I die, but I can't be but I can't stop being who I am. You can see this is the ultimate inner conflict. It's the original inner conflict. So now we know it is. It's not you. It's not your fault. It's not your doing, right? It's just the way the system learned to cope in an environment that didn't accept you as you were. And so that's not a conscious choice on your part, and you're not broken. And I say you're not broken because this is what the nervous system does by nature, right? It wasn't a mistake even. It's the way it found. And in the environment you were in, this was the best way it would work. The nervous system always finds the best strategy that gives you the most freedom it possibly can, right? And if there isn't much room for that freedom, well, that it comes up with the best strategy, right? So now there's the impulse that I want to free that. So that first understanding that I'm not that, this is the conditioned, it's not a personal flaw, it is my conditioning. There's immediately some space. Okay, so I can stand in this place that isn't broken, and I can begin to compassionately work with the energy system that is still trying to protect me from a punishment and a discarding of me that isn't actually a reality now. And I would something like this. I would start by using EFT because it's a very powerful way to help bring the nervous system to the place where it can begin to question this assumption. The assumption is, I'm not safe unless I stay hidden, which we experience on an emotional level as I'm shy. I don't have any energy. I clam up and that sort of thing. That's the defenses coming up to keep you from getting hurt. So those defensive mechanisms, they're not going to respond to us just, saying that this is what happened. They have to be brought to the point where they're willing to look and see, is it still dangerous? Right? And this is the process I call inner reconciliation. And oftentimes I will use EFT as part of that process. Sometimes that's the whole of the process. Some people, I do it every time, right? Others, I don't need that anymore. The system has opened up. It's become more responsive. But you can be encouraged. This is, I've worked with people who are that kind of shy. In one session, it was gone, right? There's no guarantee, right, that that's the case, right? I even did somebody at a live thing and the guy told me that. I brought him up to the front of the room and I had him read something. And we kept working through it. And after a while, he was reading and I was saying stuff to him and I was poking him and I had people laugh at him and stuff and it was gone. Because it can shift that dramatically because that's your nervous system's nature. It's adaptive. The moment it realizes there's no danger anymore, it just goes, whoop, and it fills up the bigger space. Right? So it isn't the kind of thing you're burdened with forever, right? It doesn't necessarily happen all at once, right? But there's definitely a road to freedom for it. And on a personal level, I can work with you. I have students who can work with you. And so if you just want to, I don't know if you're in the my private Facebook group. But you can send a message to me. You can send a message to support at gpwalsh.com, or just you can book a session with me. Just go to what the heck is it? Work with GP. Yeah, gpwalsh.com/work-with-GP. But it is the kind of thing you're probably going to need some help with. I don't think I have one specifically about shyness and tapping. I should add that to the list, the ever-growing list. So I hope that helps you, my anonymous Facebook user. All right. We'd all love to see you and hear what you have to say. You can be assured of that. There's not one person here who isn't interested in showing you the kind of unconditional love that would make you feel free. Patricia, lovely Patricia. Hello, hello, hello. There's Ava, with these words of divine wisdom flowing through you. Words about real surrender, my great master. Thank you, Ava. Ido Catherine. So much love for this space. You're breathtakingly brilliant, beautiful gift. Thank you, Ido. So touching. Such an honor to be able to share this message. And of course, nobody creates truth. So it's really an honor and a gift when you can give it expression and bring alleviating and eliminating suffering for anybody who's willing to listen. Most beautiful. You're the most beautiful staff, and you are begging us to fire you. You're Yes, I want you all to fire me and step into this role yourselves. Swan Song, the great Zen master, used to end all his letters by saying, don't know, only go straight. Attain enlightenment and save all beings from suffering. Mary, I understand what I'm looking for is where I am looking from. I am this presence and am it. I'm having a hard time keeping the attention there while the body goes into anxiety and contractions. What to do when this happens? Watch it, right? The desire to do is the mind trying to get rid of those feelings. Is the presence itself affected by the feelings that it is present to? Is awareness affected by what it is aware of? This is the important thing. To grasp that means you are the presence. How could you not be? If you weren't present, you couldn't feel the body going into anxiety and contractions. There'd be nobody there to feel it, right? So don't just focus on the good feeling, right? When we're aware of that presence and no buttons are being pushed, because that's not it. It's the awareness that the presence is always there and is always unaffected by whatever happens. As that sinks in, the fluctuations of life cease to have any impact. They don't leave a trace anymore. They cease to create suffering. And you are in this place of contentment because you don't expect the moment to be any different than it is. Right? So I wake up in the morning, I feel terrible. Okay. It's already here, right? I can either say, this terrible feeling, I've got to get rid of it, or I can say, oh, there's a terrible feeling here now. Because it is, right? I mean, it's not like you're making it up. Nobody wakes up and goes, God, how can I get that terrible feeling, right? There's this feeling. Anxiety is going through the system, right? If somebody you knew and loved came to you in contractions and full of anxiety, what would you do? You go, ooh, creepy. What? Oh, I have a hard time keeping my attention when you're doing that, right? Here, listen to G. Read this book. Go on this retreat. You wouldn't do that. You'd hug him. You'd hold him. Right? You'd pull him closer. Right? So pull the anxiety and contractions closer to you. Bring them, which means bring them. Don't push them out of presence. Don't see them as an impediment. Don't see them as a problem that you have to get rid of. See them as yourself. See them as just some part of you that has not yet been fully loved and thus redeemed. Some part of you where the light of consciousness has yet to been allowed entrance. Think of it as just a child coming to you in anxiety, where you couldn't even tell them to go on a retreat or explain non-duality to them. You just pick them up and hold them, period. I don't explain non-duality to my almost 5-year-old granddaughter. We just play. She's hurt, I hold her. She's afraid, I hold her tighter. She's worried about something, she's held even tighter. Right? Until she's running off and playing. Right? She fell down. We were at the park the other day. She fell. It was pretty high. I grabbed her in time to break the fall, but she hit. Right? I cried. It took a while. We sat there for a while. And when she finally, what did she do? She ran back over and climbed up it again. This time she made it to the top. No words, no, you can do it, nothing, right? Nothing encouraging or positive, no non-dual talk, just love. Just embracing her in love and expressing it in whatever way was available to me at that moment. So this retreating into the refuge of emptiness is not an avoidance. You're retreating into the space of infinite love, where everything is welcome. And anything inside that is contracted or anxious will sense that it is now in this space of love. And maybe incredulous at first, but eventually it'll just start to expand into it and it'll drop it. So, does that answer it for you, Mary? Sue McIntosh. Hi, GP. Thank you for helping us all realize who we are. I'm forever grateful to you, and I love you so much. Sue from South Africa. Thank you. Thank you. It means a lot to me. It's all I want. And suffering, be happy. Red rose for you. Hi, Sonia. I noticed that not having control is also about not having control of my thoughts. Then I feel safe and scared, when actually fear is the signal that I have resistance to face those thoughts and feelings, to allow those thoughts and feelings. Yeah. We turn thoughts into an enemy. I'm not supposed to have those thoughts, in which case you start fighting with them. This is the big mistake of the law of attraction. They're you, right? And if I see them as this enemy I have to get rid of, I've literally created an entity inside of me that I'm fighting with. And it's not an entity. It's a momentary evanescent little bubble modulation that's passing by. And our fear is simply what we've learned, to a learned relationship with a thought, saying this kind of thought is okay, this kind of thought isn't okay. And that creates the schism. It creates an entity where there isn't one. It creates a conflict where there isn't naturally one. Right? Even worry, fear, doubt, all of these things. So what? There they are. There's doubt. I got to get rid of the doubt. No, you don't. That's another thought, isn't it? No, you don't. It's there. Okay, it's there. Right? If I don't have no relationship with it, say, oh, there's the thought. Okay, it's gone in an instant. It has no staying power. Right? We create the conflicts with ourselves. This is the big insight. There is no such thing as a genuine conflict. We were trained to reject certain parts and to want other parts. And when those parts assert themselves, which they eventually will, because they're they can't help it, right? Get rid of it. Got to get rid of it. Got to get rid of it. I want to control my thoughts. Good luck. What if you don't care? You don't have to control. I don't care, right? I don't need to control them. Let them do whatever they want. What does that have to do with me? I am that which is aware of the thoughts. They can't exist without me. I can exist without them, but they can't exist without me. I'm kind of in the driver's seat, right? So don't turn that which is not a problem into a problem. It's only the mind that says it's a problem. You don't need control. I love you, Sonia. Merck. Good evening, GP and everyone. The family drama is unfolding at its worst yet again. It's very tempting to get very involved, and I'm not sure I want to go where those old lines of thoughts lead to. I would agree. Stick to, it's always best to say nothing until you absolutely must. That's just a rule of thumb. Where silence will work, there's no need to say anything, especially when you're in an environment where you're probably not going to be able to add anything, right? You're probably not going to actually be able to have any kind of effect. There'd be no receptivity to you coming in and explaining to them that they're just dealing with their conditioning and they're making this whole thing up. I don't think that would meet with a round of applause. So don't go there. No. Watch in you the impulse that wants to go there, that wants to change it, that wants to fix it, and let go of completely of any feeling whatsoever as to what it should be, and let it be what it is, even if it's totally chaotic. In that way, you are showing up with no agenda. And if there is a tiny little opening in which something might be able to be interjected that will bring it a notch up into a higher state, it will come. And you'll find yourself saying it without any intention to, right? It'll just come, right? So yes, silence is the better part of discretion, right? Ramana was the silent sage. The silence is profound, right? So just keep your own counsel. Be with yourself. Right? They may try to drag you in and say, I don't really feel strongly one way or the other, right? Because that's the nature. A drama requires antagonist and protagonist. And of course, the antagonist believes themselves to be the protagonist, and the protagonist believes themselves to be the antagonist. And thus you have a drama, which are all just creations of the mind. And just do everything you can to not participate in the slightest and stay conscious. Poppy, how to practice self-inquiry in one simple step daily. Watch your thoughts. That's it. Notice that you are capable of watching your thoughts. Watch. It is the simplest thing. It's not really a practice in that sense. You're simply watching thought and aware that you can watch thoughts. Watch them come and go. Watch the feelings that want to drag you into engaging with the thought, either to reject it or to follow its narrative. That's all you have to do. That is self-inquiry, right? Your attention is on the one who is watching the thought rather than the thought. That's the inquiry. Because then clearly you can sort out what is me and what is not me. What is the evanescent, just the wave of going by in the ocean, and then what is me, that which is watching it, right? This is a very simple and practical way, because what's underneath that is the question, who am I? Who is it that is watching, right? But you don't even have to ask the question. First, just be the witness, be the watcher, and let your attention remain there. It may not be easy at first. Like riding a bike, you can fall over a lot. But every time you realize you've fallen over, you just go back to that place. And that's it. One simple step. You can do it daily. Matter of fact, it ends up happening automatically all day long, right? Not like an effort, like a practice. Who's taught us that, right? Nothing that severe. It just kind of happens. That self-awareness, right? I'm awareness of that which is the witness, right? Which is myself. Obviously, I'm the one witnessing the thoughts, right? So that's self-inquiry. How's that? Drop in and say hello. Well, hello to you, Jonas. I do. Thank you for all the same love, truth. You are beautiful. Hello, David and Elaine. Including everything, or is this unlovable? Yes, where it is unlovable. Includes everything. Hello, Nazarene. So good to see you. Jay, what is part of me that's not conditional until the moment I observe? Conditioning. From that observation, a natural sense of right and wrong arises. Yes, because now right and wrong is not cultural or moral or asserted by some law. It is love discriminating between what is most loving and what is less loving, which is the genuine self. That's the genuine wisdom. The part of you that's not conditional until the moment I observe it is conditioning. It's not a part that got conditioning. That is the conditioning. You follow that? Mr. Bombastic, how do I deal with intrusive thoughts? Watch them. Notice, mostly when we ask that question, it's the underlying sentiment is, how do I get rid of these intrusive thoughts? How do I make them go away, right? Well, we all know from experience, the more you try to get rid of them, the more they show up, right? It's like they have a tenaciousness, because if I'm trying to get rid of them, I've made them a powerful entity. I've given them an existence separate from myself, that somehow they're acting according to their own will, right? And contrary to mine, right? They're no such thing. They are not an entity. They're just a thought. And they're the thoughts within this inner environment that is you. So in fact, they're you, right? So what's the need to get rid of them? I don't need to get rid of my finger. It's me, right? I don't need to get rid of my thoughts. Even the fact of calling them intrusive means they're coming and I don't want them to. All right. The moment I say it's okay, you're here, they're no longer intruding, are they? Done. Intrusive thoughts are now gone because you decided they were intrusive, made them intrusive, right? And now they became this intrusive thing. Did they come in and ask myself, I'm intrusive, right? No, the thought just happened. You labeled it as intrusive, right? Created it and created the schism and now the resistance to it. So let it go. There's no such thing as an intrusive thought. It's just thoughts happening. But there's another thought that follows on its heels that says, I don't want that thought, right? That's believed. And that makes the first thought intrusive, right? And of course, there's no limit to what it'll regard as acceptable and unacceptable thoughts. And that goes on forever. The standard is just all over the place. So all you need to do is go, there's no such thing as intrusive thoughts. There's just thoughts happening. And if I just let them happen, not hold on to them, not push them away, then there's no such thing anymore as an intrusive thought. And I don't experience suffering from them because they have no entity. There isn't something intruding on you. There is only the flow of thoughts and our mistaken belief about them. Right? Once that's gone, they're gone. Right? The thought may still be there, but there's no intrusion anymore. They just come, they go, which all thoughts do. Matter of fact, the thought that the next thought says is intrusive is already gone. It's not even there anymore. It's made way for the next one. It says, oh God, and that's a disruptive thought. I got to get rid of it. And now this whole litany of more thoughts about how terrible intrusive thoughts are. And the actual thought that triggered this whole mess isn't even there anymore. It's off into the abyss. It's gone. It's back in the emptiness. Thank you for that, Mr. Bombastic. Okay. Hello, everyone. Let's see. Thank you. I'm going to not be going till 3 o'clock today. So I'm going to let's see, pick up what I'm going to see. Maybe you can put some things. Second time watching you, palpitation, saying, layman terms you speak to understand. Layman terms you speak to understand. Hello, Drea. Southern California, USA. Many people need to know. Shared. Let's see, where did you start? Transference, low. Found some my cousin watching. Shared, many people need to know. Layman terms you speak to understand. It sounds like you have an accent. I guess you mean that I speak in layman terms. Yes, I do. Why be? Yeah. Wisdom to discern, but yoga tribal. Yes, it does. Right. What speaks to it? Heart chakra is blockage. Singing bowl, green chakra. That's an energy healing techniques. Let's see. Questions. I feel home. Hello, Peter. Hello, Eliza. People I have not said. There's Tatiana. People I've not said hello to yet. I'm looking through the entire list now to see, because I think I'm just going to take one more question. Speaking Moses and letting all go, as my tribe has struggled so much with suffering around material possessions. This is now coming. Yeah, the legality of it. Yeah. Popular crush, unique, shy, timid, introverted, sensitive. Part of me, I know freedom is in trusting the letting go of all attachments. Well, yeah, lots. Like my kids, why I'm afraid I'll lose them. My goodness. If you talk about love, yes, Robin Waters, Dykes, hello. Okay. Love. Let's just talk about love. Sorry. These headphones make my ears itch. Love, what a word. God is love. The ultimate of all things. The highest. The essence. Beyond which you cannot go. Is love. Love is not personal. It's not something you have. It's not even something you feel. It is the nature of life itself. It is the internal unity, singularity of oneness. All love points us, all human love in every form it takes, points us back to this essential oneness. All of our thoughts have created a self-image of someone who is separate from love and thus seeks to find it. It is inconceivable to this self-image that it might actually be the love that it is seeking. From the point of view of the awakened one, it's like looking at the wave on the ocean, wandering the whole ocean looking for the ocean, because it has mistakenly believed itself to be simply a wave, that it could exist independently from the ocean. Please take this into your hearts, even as a meditation. You are love. It is not, you are not something that is trying to find it. You are that. Now, your mind will argue about that, because for your mind it's It's something else altogether. I'm this. Sometimes I feel loved. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I feel loving. Sometimes I don't. The rise and fall, the flow of our emotional states and feelings is only a momentary wave on the ocean. The ocean itself is love, and you are that. This is what I keep trying to point you back to. Right now, you are all aware of my voice, are you not? You're aware of the computer, the device you're watching this on, or whatever you're listening to this on. You're all aware of it, right? There's something that is cognizing this whole experience, everything we say, right? Everything you hear. There's a point at which it is recognized, right? Something. This mysterious something, right? That nobody really knows what it is. That is, nobody in any of the realms of human knowledge, no, there's some assumptions about it, but this experience of my own existence, this self-aware consciousness, is the total mystery. You refer to it as the problem of consciousness in science, because there's no explanation for it, really. And yet, here you are. You're it. You're hearing every word I say. Something, someone is hearing. Now, the question is, who is that that's hearing? Who are you that is hearing? And immediately when we say that, the mind says, oh, I'm this person, and I do these things. And these are all just thoughts, right? About the actual experience. Just come with me for a moment into just the actual experience of being aware of yourself. The actual experience of being conscious. Not what you are conscious of, which is all the content, which is the mind and all the things that it does. All of that's well and good. We don't have to do anything with that. But be aware of the consciousness itself. Now, isn't that you? That must be you, because it's what's seeing everything else, right? What's the nature of that consciousness? This is the question. We assume many things, but I'm saying put all your assumptions aside. What is this nature? What is the name, the true name? Don't you find it fascinating that no matter what the language, no matter what any experience of nationality or gender or anything, we all have the same name. Nobody refers to themselves. I don't refer to myself as GP. I don't. GP wants that, right? I say I. You say I. Everything says I. My name is I. And it's the same name as yours. What is this I? This I that sees everything. And there could be no experience whatsoever if you weren't there, if I wasn't there. This I, this intuitive knowledge, I am, that was the revelation to Moses. That's God. This, the consciousness that is aware of my words right now, is the ultimate consciousness, the one I. It is not just a person, this body. And this I am, this God, is love. How could it not be? There's nothing other than it. It's everywhere. It's in everything. It sees everything. It has no enemies. Love has no enemies, does it? Love is pure love. It's never hateful. It's never restrictive. It's never indifferent. It's pure love. It's just love. That's all it is. That's all it could be. It can't be anything else but. Which means nothing is unacceptable. Nothing is rejected. It has no enemies. So it is fearless. That's what Christ meant when he said, love your enemies. You love your enemies, you discover you don't have any. That the enemy was a creation of your mind, an attempt to separate. Come back to love. I am love. It is love that is looking through these eyes right now and seeing. It is love that is hearing the words that appear to be coming from me. It is love that wants to open the heart. It is love that wants everyone to share in love. It is love that seeks truth. It is love that seeks freedom. It is you. You are love. That is your true nature. It always has been, it always will be. So it is nothing you need to get. It is nothing you need to do. It is no behavior you have to try to adopt. No moral code you have to follow. It is what you are. Even Christ said that love was the fulfilling of the law. When you have love, there is no need for law. You don't need the 10 Commandments anymore. Nobody who is love would ever do anything to hurt, harm, steal, misrepresent anyone. Would not take anything that wasn't freely given. Would have no fear of lacking. You are love. Love is God. Love is the self. Love is the soul. Love is the heart. Love is the essence of everything that is made manifest. It is the being behind all beings. Just try as best you can to identify that which is obviously aware of everything else, not as a person happens to be occupying this body, but as an infinite principle, love, that is animating this body. I think I'm going to leave it for now. And somebody asked something about the observer and the observed. The observer is love. And if the observer is loved, what else does it observe other than love? And the ocean sees the wave. It doesn't, oh, there's a wave. It sees itself. Everything becomes defined by, characterized by love. And in everyday human experience, that doesn't mean we just embrace stupidity, brutality, greed, and all of those kinds of things, but we see them for what they are, the absence of love. Or love that is too small. Love that is focused itself. Greed is just simply love that is focused itself on possessions. And being different than somebody else. So it has simply narrowed itself to a single object or attainment. But it's still love, isn't it? Right? They love that. The love is just too small. Nothing happens except for love. And then I say, I hate what's on the other side. It's just because my love is too small. What if that boundary falls away and there is no other side? All is love. Love is all. God is love. Love is God. And love is your nature. God is your nature. Thank you all, dear friends. Thank you for being here today. I love you all. From the bottom of my heart.